Good afternoon and welcome to This Week in your daily Star Trek news. Today is Sunday, April 24th, 2022. Come up on the show today. If you cannot wait for Star Trek Strange New Worlds on May 5th, then I have a way that maybe you might be able to get a little sneak preview. Also, tickets are now on sale for limited theatrical showings of Star Trek the Motion Picture. And if you would like to get a bottle of the same kind of bourbon that was featured in Star Trek Picard a couple weeks ago, I've got a way that you can do that too. Anyway, my name is Alison Pitt, and today's show is supported by people like you through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/daily Star Trek news. Now, this is the part of the show where I usually do a spiel to the people who are listening on the podcast afterwards to say, come on over, join us on YouTube. But you'll be glad to know that actually today is better for the podcast people because show and tell, which I will come on to later, really has not much of a visual element. We're kind of going back in time to the beginning of Daily Star Trek News, which of course didn't do video. So if you're on the podcast, stick around to the end. It'll be better than it usually is, where you have to kind of guess what I'm showing people. Anyway, it will be fun. And of course, next week, come join us on YouTube. It'll be fun. Anyway, I will get onto the poll in just a second, but I do also want to remind you that if you're watching the show today, everything that I talk about is available also on dailystartreknews.com. Also, if you want it to be delivered directly to you and you don't even have to log on to an internet browser or whatever the kids are calling it these days, yes, you can sign up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter. That's at dailystartreknews.com/contact. Right. So the poll this week should be an easy one, hopefully. It's, are you planning to see Star Trek the Motion Picture on the big screen? So, but told you a while back that Fathom Events is bringing it to the big screen in May. Are you planning to go and see it? So your answers are yes, no, obviously. It depends on COVID, so you might be waiting to see what the situation is like before you commit, or just, I haven't decided yet. It should be an easy answer. Curious to see what you guys say. And of course, we'll check. The same poll is running on Twitter while the show is going live, and it will run overnight as well. All right, so let's get started on the main show. And I'm just going to you know, news was slow this week. To put things into context for you, we are coming up to the penultimate episode of the second season of Star Trek Picard. We have just under 2 weeks before Star Trek Strange New Worlds starts, and basically everything that's happening is one of those two things. You will have seen a number of roundtable interviews going on with the stars of Strange New Worlds. We are not going to cover every single one of those that comes out, although probably we will do like a roundup towards the end of this week. But really, that's the focus, is really wrapping up Picard and leading into Strange New Worlds. As a result, news is like a little thin. So today's show is going to be a little short, but hopefully there's some fun stuff in there towards the end. And we'll do a little bit of reminiscence because, as I mentioned last week, this is actually the 3rd anniversary of Daily Star Trek News. The first episode, if you go all the way back in the feed, if you even can go all the way back in the feed, the first episode of Daily Star Trek News came out on April 23rd, 2019. The world was a little bit different back then. First of all, we didn't have half of the Star Trek that we have now, like nowhere near. And of course, no one had heard of COVID-19. So today for show and tell, it's actually not much of a show, but I dug up I dug up the scripts from the very first episode of Daily Star Trek News. So we're going to have a look at what was going on in Star Trek at the time. And I even found the scripts for the stuff that I did before I started publishing, which is a little fun. So hopefully that'll be a fun trip down memory lane for you guys. But that is later on in the show. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the the tiny bit of actual news this week, and hopefully it's stuff that will actually help you guys if you're in the right place. So the first one, if you haven't heard about it already, is that the Paley Center, which is based both in Los Angeles and in New York, is opening up a Star Trek Strange New Worlds exhibit starting later this week, actually. Now, to give you some context about the Paley Center, they've done exhibits like this in Los Angeles before. And in fact, I went to the Discovery one. Gosh, it must have been 2019. And it was wonderful. They bring in the costumes, the props, and you get to go really up close to see the stuff that's going on in the show. Really fun. In addition to all that, they usually have some other events, panels, etc. going on. Now, of course, they've done that in LA before because LA, Hollywood, whatever. They moved it over to New York, which actually makes sense because they're filming in Toronto. It's a little easier to get to New York from Toronto than it is LA. Anyway, the details of that. It's called The Visionary Universe of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and it's running from April 27th through the end of May. And it's going to be exactly what I said. It's an exhibit that features Starfleet and Vulcan uniforms, set pieces from the show, artwork, video clips, and more. But that's not all. If you can get there, they're also doing daily screenings of all of the premiere episodes of the various Star Trek series. On the weekends, they've got some family-friendly activities, including screenings of Star Trek Prodigy. And then also, the exciting bit is that on May 1st, which is the Sunday before Star Trek Strange New Worlds premieres on Paramount Plus, they're offering a preview screening of the first 2 episodes called Strange New Worlds and Children of the Comet. So if you can get feasibly to New York City and you want to see Strange New Worlds early, you can do that. You can find out more information about the whole thing at paleycenter.org. I checked just before the show today, and they do still have tickets to those preview screenings. If you're already a member, you get VIP access. If you're not a member, you can just buy a ticket. So if you can get there, do it. And I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to talk about it. So just FYI. So anyway, there's that. And then also the story that is not a story. So I think you guys know by now, I try not to report on unofficial stuff, but it was kind of something that was everywhere. So I added it late last week on IMDb. The first 5 plot synopses for Star Trek Strange New Worlds popped up on IMDb. Now, if you are ever on IMDb, you notice that even before an episode airs, often they'll have the episode descriptions and the episode titles there. Those have since been removed. So we actually published them on dailystartreknews.com. I don't think they're particularly spoilery because it's just an episode synopsis, and it's not a Star Trek Strange New Worlds is episodic as opposed to one big arc. But they've now been taken off. So I think at the time we said that these were not official descriptions. So hopefully, but let's be honest, usually IMDb is not wrong. Although they're not official, but they're usually not wrong. Anyway, I would say that the titles are still there. The titles still do match. So episode 1, which I said before was Strange New Worlds. Episode 2 is Children of the Comet. Episode 3 is Ghosts of Illyria. Episode 4 is Memento Mori. And episode 5, best title ever, Spock. Well, actually, it's difficult. It's Spock Amok, because amok, A-M-O-K, is usually amok, right? It feels like it should be pronounced Spock Amok, but it isn't. So that's there. I'm not going to say them on the show because they may or may not be true anymore, but if you want to go, you can read that on dailystartreknews.com. Anyway. Okay, so next up, so that's pretty much the actual series news. But I do want to make sure that you guys know that Star Trek the Motion Picture, which is coming out in cinemas at the end of May, thanks to Fathom Events, who are wonderful, The tickets are now on sale for that. So if you want to book your tickets in advance, you can do that. Let's just check the dates because I always forget. May 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. Limited showings, limited theaters, but you can go onto the website now and see where they're available, and you can book them in advance if you want. Couple things to note, this is the director's edition, so it's slightly different from the normal TMP, although I didn't notice the difference. I would say that if you are at all a fan or even just curious about the motion picture, I would highly recommend going and seeing it on the big screen. I'm going to try and go, I think, for two reasons. Number one, the remastering that they've done with bringing it into 4K, because I watched it in 4K on Paramount Plus, really, I was worried that it was going to be cheesy, but it actually just really, really enhances the film. There are bits and pieces of the original, even the DVD and Blu-ray versions that were pretty hard to see. A lot of the movies pretty dark, but they did a really good job in the 4K version, sort of bringing it into, like, it's still dark, but you can see those the details much, much better. And they're just there's one scene that is still pretty blurry, but you'll see it when you get there. But yeah, it's totally worth seeing it for the sort of enhanced visuals. And also, if you're an audio nerd, it's been remixed in Dolby Atmos, which I'm not going to get into. They call it three-dimensional audio, which is kind of like a misnomer, but it is pretty cool. Basically, the audio is rendered at the point of display rather than at the it's mixed for your system rather than being mixed at the point of publishing. It's very cool. You should read more into it. It's very neat. But both of those things together mean that is probably going to be a really wonderful immersive experience in the theaters, and is totally worth doing. So go to fathomevents.com for more, and you can book your tickets now. Okay. God, I feel like I'm an infomercial today. I'm sorry, it's a little slow. What can I say? And it's not going to get any better. So the next one is, if you're a fan of bourbon, which I am, you may have noticed that there was a particularly conspicuous bottle of bourbon in the Star Trek Picard episode 2 of 1, which was a couple weeks ago. Raffi's kind of looking at it and decides not to. Anyway, you can buy that bourbon. Well, possibly. It's from a Colorado-based distillery called NoCo Distillery, and it's like a great bit of product placement. It's a small lot of the bourbon that's probably going to be ready later this year. It's going to be approximately 500 bottles, and because the demand has been so big, it's actually a lottery to whether you will be allowed to purchase one of those bottles. But you can go on their website right now and put your name down. It's at, I'd have to look up the link because we've linked back to the Denver Post, which has more information on the history of it and how you can sign up. It's a $100 bottle of bourbon, but if you like bourbon. Anyway, yeah, it's not, to be clear, this is not like a themed bottle. This is not like the Star Trek wines where they sell Chateau Picard Bordeaux or the Romulan ale, the blue one. This is not that. This is just a genuine bottle of Colorado whiskey that was featured in the episode. But if you like that sort of thing, it could be sort of your own little slice of television history for that. Yeah, I will put a proper link down here. It's also got the full story on Denver Post, and it looks like it was actually syndicated to a number of local newspapers too. So anywhere you find it, you'll be able to find it. It's NoCo Distillery in Fort Collins, Colorado. Yeah. And finally today, I just want to give a really quick shout out to a friend of this show who I was in the chat a minute ago. I'm just going to check. Probably is still in the chat. Congratulations to Dr. Mohamed Noor. I just wanted to say that fully. He's been named the interim dean of Trinity College at Duke University, which is a great honor and super well deserved because he's a wonderful human being and very, very smart as well. Of course, he's a science advisor on Star Trek Discovery and also has his own YouTube channel called BioTrekkie, and the BioTrekkie Explains. And he's got a series running right now called BioTrekkie with the Admiral, where he talks to Jane Brooke, Admiral Cornwall from Star Trek Discovery, about science in Star Trek Discovery. Don't miss it. Anyway, congratulations to Dr. Noor, and hi if you're in the chat. Okay, so I told you it was going to be a short show in terms of news, and it is. That's pretty much it for now. Probably, I'm expecting to see things kind of ramp up over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Again, be sure to sign up for the newsletter. You'll get all that stuff in your inbox at dailystartreknews.com/contact. And it's the best way to keep up with it. Next week will be next week will be the last week before Strange New Worlds. I'm really excited. Anyway, okay, I do want to remind you, of course, that this show is supported by our Patreon supporters. So if you would like to contribute to what we're doing, please check that out. It's patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. I would really appreciate your support, and thank you very much for all of you who are already supporters of us on Patreon, because it really makes a huge difference. Thank you. Oh yeah, and vote in the poll. Okay. So it turns out I actually have like a million things to show you for show and tell today, because it's just how it worked out. Now, last week I told you I was thinking of maybe doing something special for Daily Star Trek News' 3rd anniversary. I completely failed to do that, which, if you know me personally, you'll know that that is not a surprise at all. I struggle getting things like that organized. However, I did mention to you all that I have some stickers and things like that lying around. So I've got stickers like this. They say "Trekking every day." I've got the same thing in a magnet. Yay. I also have this one, which I love, and I like to stick on things. It says, "No, Star Trek isn't canceled." I've already sent these to a lot of you, but if you have not had any yet, or you would just like some more, maybe you want to give them to friends and family, please jot me an email, info@dailystartreknews.com, and I will be happy to send you out as many as you like. So yeah, just you don't have to do anything. Just write to me. Just say, "Hey, I would like a sticker." You need to send me your address, obviously. But yes, just let me know and I will send them out. So that's number one. Number two is, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, this is just a stupid thing that I found today, and I do not get a commission for. Well, actually, I'll put an affiliate link down below. I got an oil diffuser for Christmas. I keep it on my desk when I work, and I have discovered today that if you are missing the smell of the Rio from STLV, come with me on this journey. Okay, I'm going to take a step back for a second. So I got this diffuser, and it came with a bunch of essential oils, which are great. I personally prefer the eucalyptus one. That's fine. But I was looking to branch out a little bit to something a little more like, I don't know, a little more home fragrancy. And so I went onto Yankee Candle, and it turns out they also have diffuser oils. And so I bought a couple because it's really hard to buy scented things off the internet. Anyway, I bought a couple. And then this one I put into my diffuser, and when I tell you that it felt like I was instantly transported back to the Rio, it was the weirdest thing. And yeah, because you know how smells can trigger memories. It was like that. And then I thought, maybe I'm just being crazy. So I asked my partner as well, and he was like, "Yeah, I won't keep you in suspense anymore. This is it." I don't know if you can see that. This is it's Yankee Candle. It's called Warm Luxe Cashmere. if you are missing the Rio, it's worth a try, especially because STLV isn't at the Rio this year. It's at Bally's, and I can guarantee you it will not smell quite the same. But that's it. Yankee Candle Warm Luxe Cashmere. I do get an affiliate commission from the Amazon link, but I'm not like a Yankee Candle representative. I just want to say that. Anyway, let's move on, because the other thing that I did promise was to go back and look at what was happening in daily Star Trek news back when this show was born. So I have dug up. I'm not going to read the whole script. Don't worry. I have dug up the script from Tuesday, 23rd of April, 2019, from Daily Star Trek News. And I just want to take you guys down a little bit of a memory hole to what was going on back then. So I did 3 stories on that day. Here we go. Hello and welcome to your Daily Star Trek News from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. I'm Alison Pitt, and today is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019. Coming up on today's show, newly sisterless Spock seeks his opposite with Kirk. IDW Comics takes on the aftermath of Discovery Season 2. And the Picard series is making it so as we speak. So, those stories on the very first episode of Daily Star Trek News. Number 1 was talking about, there's a reference at the end of Discovery Season 2 where somebody says to, Michael Burnham says to Spock to find his opposite. And Michelle Paradise, who of course is one of the executive producers of Star Trek Discovery, confirmed to Cinema Blend that was taking care of talking specifically about his future and Kirk. She said, absolutely, that definitely is Kirk. Interesting, especially now with what we know about Strange New Worlds Season 2 with Paul Wesley coming on as Kirk. It's interesting. Then the next story was IDW Star Trek Discovery Aftermath comics. And of course, they've been going from strength to strength on the Star Trek comics since then. But here's the really fun one, I think, especially given where we are in Star Trek Picard right now. According to TrekMovie.com, who cited the industry newsletter Production Weekly, shooting started yesterday, April 22nd, 2019, and is scheduled to run until around September 16th of this year. The show is expected to run for 10 episodes, with shooting to be divided up into 5 2-episode blocks. The directors of the first 4 episodes are already known. Hanali Culpepper, who directed the Season 2 Discovery episode The Red Angel, will direct the first 2 episodes. And Trek alum Jonathan Frakes confirmed last week that he will be directing episodes 3 and 4. We had the whole universe of Star Trek Picard laid out in front of us, and we didn't know what to expect. Kind of fun. Let's see, trivia that week was talking about Captain Picard's fish called Livingston. What else did we have that week? Wow, really not a lot. Captain Lorca went on to Star Trek Online. Here we go. This was on Friday, the 26th of April, 2019. According to NBC News, citing sources, claims that CBS is in talks once again to merge with Viacom. It's weird. It's weird to think that when I started doing this show, CBS and Viacom hadn't even merged. CBS All Access was a thing, definitely wasn't Paramount Plus, and we definitely weren't doing the Paramount Global thing yet. That's pretty weird. Anyway, so that was the first week of shows. And then I went back because any of you who do podcasts, sort of a good rule of thumb is do a whole bunch of episodes before you actually start publishing, because the first few you do will suck. So I did exactly that. I actually did 3 or 4 weeks, I think. So The fun things that happened before Daily Star Trek News happened. Let's see, we're talking about there was a fan petition, if you recall, about asking CBS to give Anson Mount his own Captain Pike-led series. We know how that turned out. Oh, I'm catching you up on the latest announcement from Disney about their new streaming service, Disney Plus, and how it could affect CBS All Access. So at the time, we didn't even have Disney Plus, which is kind of nuts to think about. Um, and on Friday, the 19th of April, the story that didn't make it into the real Daily Star Trek news. Do you remember when here's what here's what I wrote. A little bonus to spice up your weekend. If you haven't yet seen it, search the web for the YouTube video entitled Jonathan Frakes Telling You You're Wrong for 47 Seconds. We all know that video by now, but that was the first time I'd heard of it. So, anyway. All right. I'm going to stop now because I think I've yammered on about the history for long enough, but it is absolutely fascinating. I don't think that you can listen to those early episodes of Daily Star Trek News anymore on things like Apple Podcasts because I think it only goes back 300 episodes. And there's been way more than 300 episodes of this show. But I think you can see it on the website, dailystartreknews.com. You should be able to search for April 2019 or something like that. If you're interested, let me know. I'll put a link down below too. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for all of your support getting us to 3 years. Of course, things are a little bit different. Used to be just me, and now we have a whole team, and it's really the whole team that kind of makes the whole thing happen. I give them credit every week, and I don't give them enough credit every week. It's Chris Peterson, David Powell, Jack Brown, T. Rick Jones, and Marina Kravchuk. All of those guys really, keep us rolling every week. And a big thank you to them. And of course, to the Patreon supporters who have kept us going this whole time too. And now I'm going to shut up. Thank you. All right. Let us go and check in on the poll. So you have a few minutes more to vote here on YouTube. And I'm going to go and look on Twitter. The question today, are you planning to see Star Trek the Motion Picture on the big screen? And of course, yes, no, maybe. And it depends on COVID. Currently on Twitter, let's have a look. The majority of people, well, not quite, a plurality, technically, a plurality of people with 44.7% of the vote are saying yes, they'll go and see it on the big screen. 31.6% says no. 15.8% in third place says it depends on COVID, and 7.9% in last place says that they haven't decided yet. I do want to call out Christoph specifically because he said, he called it the motionless picture, which I know a lot of people do, but I do just want to point out that I understand that Star Trek: The Motion Picture is a slow-paced movie. It's sort of a gentle rocking boat on a calm sea. The motion there is really the motion that happens in your heart. It's one of my favorite Star Trek movies, if you can't tell. Anyway. But in all seriousness, Christoph, I hope that it does actually come to the theater near you. I don't know what the Fathom Events coverage is like in countries that are not the United States. Right, I'm going to end the poll over here too. Here we go. Okay, on YouTube, are you planning to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture on the big screen? Now, see, this is really interesting. It's totally opposite. So in first place with no, is 37% of you on YouTube have said no. 33 said yes. 20% have said I haven't decided, and just 8% says it depends on COVID. So, well, I guess we'll have to see when it comes out in May. Anyway, thank you all for voting in the poll. If you are here with me on the YouTube live stream, stick around for a second. I'm just going to close out the show and then we can chat about stuff. Otherwise, that is it. for this week in Daily Star Trek News. Thank you very much for listening. And just a reminder that if you're listening on the podcast, come on over and hang out with us on YouTube, because obviously you get all the same stuff, but then we do some additional chatting around towards the end of the show. And it's a good deal of fun. So please do that. It's at youtube.com/Daily Star Trek News. And remember, you can find all of this week's stories, including some stuff that I didn't talk about. There's our events listing, trivia. History this week was really great. He did an entire article on Shakespeare and Star Trek. And listen, the title of it is called Let's Get This Bardy Started. It's very good. Go check it out. All of that stuff is on dailystartreknews.com, and all of that stuff will come straight to your inbox if you sign up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter at dailystartreknews.com/contact. There we go. Anyway, thank you again for listening. This show is produced by me, Alison Pitt, and everything that we've talked about today is written by Chris Peterson, Marina Kravchuk, Jack Brown, T. Rick Jones, and David Powell. And of course, the show is sponsored by people like you through Patreon. You can find out more and add your support at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. I will be back next week, which is the last week before we have Star Trek Strange New Worlds in our life. I'll be back next week with more of the Star Trek news you need to know. I'm Alison Pitt. Live long and prosper. Okay. Hi, people. Yeah, sorry about, I mean, I can't affect the news. And the news this week was slow, admittedly. But it should pick up, hopefully. And we'll go from there. How is everybody doing this weekend? It is getting very, very close. What's weird to me, I know I keep going on about how next week is the last week that we have before we have Strange New Worlds in our lives. This Strange New Worlds is the last of the Star Trek series that we know are being produced that we haven't seen yet. So it's a little bit of a big deal. I mean, we've got multiple seasons of everything. So what have we got? Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and then Strange New Worlds. We know that things are in the works for Starfleet Academy, potentially Section 31, maybe some other things we haven't even heard of yet. But Strange New Worlds is the last one that we know is actually coming, actually happening, is, real. And it's going to be a very strange new world after that, because we've had new Star Trek coming that we knew about since 2017. So it's been a while. Anyway, let's see. Oh, and of course, yes, okay, Robert Kaiser points out, and I don't mean to be unfeeling, Robert Kaiser points out that Strange New Worlds, we don't know what's happening outside of the United States. And I haven't heard anything, and everyone just seems to be like, we're doing the best we can. But, I think we're pretty sure it's not going on Netflix. It's probably not going on anything except for Paramount Plus, and who knows when that will be. So I hope that gets resolved soon for those of you who are living outside of the US. We're going to avoid spoilers on this show. So hopefully you guys can keep watching and all that. All right. I'm going to scroll backwards. BC, Alamarain. Hello, everybody. Okay, so referring to Star Trek the Motion Picture being the motionless picture, Peter H. says, I heard of TMP also being referred to as sit long and prosper. I really can wax poetic about the motion picture. What's really funny is I've probably said this a million times in the show. I had no use for it at all up until I think I just hit the age where it works for me. I've always known. So the motion picture came out about 2 months after I was born. So, it's special to me already, because of that. Um, but I don't think I really appreciated it until I got a little bit older and started learning about some more old school sci-fi. So there's a lot of 2001: A Space Odyssey in there. There's a lot of Kubrick in there. I've got a few books from, I can't remember, Kurt Vonnegut and Ray Bradbury. I got into some of their sort of space-based sci-fi. And after that, the motion picture really kind of hits different. There's some really old school, cool stuff going on in there. I will shut up now because I'm sure I've had this rant before. Just go watch it. It's really good. And if you already have Paramount Plus, it is really spectacular in 4K. It's really, really impressive. Um, yeah. Sorry for the dead air, everybody. I'm kind of reading backwards and it's really hard. Okay, so Anne says, let me know if and when STLV is back at the Rio. I haven't experienced it yet, and one day I hope to. Um, yeah, and okay, and Robert also in the chat mentions that they're revamping the Rio, so it'll probably not have that smell again in the future, unless they use Yankee Candle Warm Luxe Cashmere. No, that's true. I think it's because they had like an aromatherapy something on that main floor. I think was the source of the smell. And yeah, they are completely revamping the Rio. I don't know that we're ever going to have STLV the way it used to be STLV because part of the charm of it was that the Rio was kind of crappy. And now it's going to be part of it's going to be like a nicer hotel, and part of it's going to be the convention center. I'm not sure it's going to work exactly the same as it always used to. One of the benefits of STLV was that you were all in one place. So the before hours, the hours, and the after hours were all in one place. And yeah, I don't know. As far as I'm aware, once it's been at Bally's this coming year, as far as I'm aware, it's going back to the Rio, but I haven't actually heard that. So. Uh, Sorry, I'm smiling because of all of you guys um, in the chat congratulating Dr. Noor. That makes me happy. Now, BC actually mentions about the TMP that the streaming compression loses some of the detail, and I want to see it on the big screen. That may be true. I was actually amazed in 4K. If you have a 4K TV, like if you don't have a 4K TV, you'll be fine. If you have a 4K TV and like a 4K Apple TV, which is what I stream it on, you will be amazed at how good the quality is. At least I was, except for one scene. It's really fun. If you remember the scene where the weird little light thing comes and like zooms around the bridge and then eventually like zaps Ilea. Sorry, spoiler alert, but it's a 42-year-old movie, so that's the only bit. And I have somewhere the books about how those things were done. That's the only scene in the whole movie that doesn't appear to have been upscaled. And I wonder if that's because it kind of looks like the way that they did it was a practical effect with like squishing two bits of film together because to get you that streak of light going down. And I wonder if that's what happened because it's actually pretty conspicuous that that's the only scene in the movie that hasn't been upscaled. It's interesting. Anyway, watch it and see if you notice the same thing. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I'm just scrolling back to the end to see if I've missed any questions. So Marina says, interestingly, I've never smelled anything beyond the smoke on the main floor of the Rio. Yeah, there is that. No, it's one specific place. I think it might be the aromatherapy. You remember that weird place with like the oxygen bar and the like water massage table that like now that we know about COVID is like a horrifying thought. Uh, it might have been because of that. Um, and to Christoph, he says they don't even sell the TMP 4K redo here or in the UK yet. I'm assuming you mean the most recent one, maybe. They're not releasing it on Blu-ray until the end of the year. I think they're trying to like get the Paramount Plus bump here in the States, and then they'll do a bump for Christmas time. I want to say it's coming out in September or October, something like that. Anyway, thank you all for being here. I'm going to wrap up the show. I appreciate you sitting through the trip through daily Star Trek news history. It's kind of wild that it's been quite so long. A lot of stuff has happened, a lot in the last 3 years, and I appreciate you all being here through all of that. Anyway, thank you again for being here on this wonderful, lovely Sunday, and hope to see you again next week for the last weekend before Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Live long and prosper, everyone. And yeah, have a nice rest of your weekend.